Hallo Deutschlerner! In this lesson I will teach you how to use the separable prefix verbs in German, also known as trennbare Verben. I explain when to separate the prefix from the verb and when not to. I'll also show you a list of separable prefixes. You will learn how these separable verbs work and how to use a variety of separable verbs in German through a ton of example sentences. In my next few videos, I will focus on smaller groups of prefixes and how they change the meanings of the verbs. If you want an awesome way to help you remember which prefixes are separable, check out this video from the YouTube channel Learn German with Music. I wrote the song and they brought it to life. Link in the description down below for that. Special thanks to my channel members and Patreon supporters. If you want to be like these awesome people and get access to worksheets and extra materials for every video I upload, go ahead and click that join button down below or go to patreon.com/Mr. L. Antrim. First off, let's talk about prefixes in general. If you didn't watch last week's video about inseparable verbs, shame on you, but don't worry, I will repeat myself a bit here. German verbs are often modified with prefixes. They change the meaning and morph one verb into another. For example, the verb geben is often translated as to give, but when you add the prefix aus, we translate it with the English verb to spend. While this does more accurately represent the usage of the verb ausgeben, you can also translate it as to give out. This tells us that the prefix aus changes the direction of geben from a more general, non-specific, away from the subject direction to a slightly more specific, outward direction. Basically, every verb in German has a direction of sorts. The direction of lernen, for instance, is from less to more. The direction of leben is forward in time. The direction of singen is from your mouth away. These directions are changed by the prefixes. Most prefixes, like aus, are separable. This means that the prefix is often moved to the end of the sentence. For example, Ich gebe 20 Euro für das Konzert aus. I am spending 20 euros for the concert. The list of separable prefixes is considerably longer than the inseparable prefixes that I explained last week. That's why there is no way I could cover them all in one video, but you can see them listed on the screen now. Today I'll use a variety of these prefixes to illustrate the rules for how to use them in a variety of situations, but for those of you who just want to know which prefixes are separable, there you go. Most of the time, the separable prefixes will be separated from the main part of the verb, hence the name. When they are separated, they go to the end of the sentence or clause in which the main part of the verb was used. For example, abräumen, to clear off. Das Kind räumt den Tisch ab. The child clears off the table. The main part of the verb goes where the conjugated verb usually goes. In statements, this is most commonly the second position, but I'll show you some examples later in which the verb is moved to a different location. The prefix ab is moved to the end of the sentence right before the period. Let's try a few more of those before I move on to a different rule. Ankommen, to arrive. Wann kommt der Zug an? When does the train arrive? Aufgeben, to give up or surrender. Sisyphus gibt nie auf. Sisyphus never gives up. Beitreten, to join. Meine Frau tritt der Kirche bei. My wife is joining the church. All of the examples so far have been in the present tense. If you use the simple past or Präteritum tense, nothing changes except for the form of the verb used. Here are the same examples, but in the simple past. Das Kind räumte den Tisch ab. The child cleared the table. Wann kam der Zug an? When did the train arrive? Sisyphus gab nie auf. Sisyphus never gave up. Meine Frau trat der Kirche bei. My wife joined the church. If you use the verb werden to form the future tense, you push the verb to the end of the sentence or clause in the infinitive form, just like you would with any other verb. With the separable prefix verbs, this means that you put the prefix back on the main part of the verb, as the infinitive form of any verb with a separable prefix is simply that verb with the prefix attached. You put the emphasis of the word on the prefix and not on the main part of the verb. This is the opposite of what I said last week for inseparable prefixes. For example, hinaufklettern. Hinauf gets the emphasis. Hinaufklettern. Hinaufklettern. To climb up. Imse Wimse Spinne wird wieder hinaufklettern. The itsy bitsy spider will climb up again. Fernsehen, to watch TV. Heute Abend werden wir Fernsehen. This evening we will watch TV. This rule also works if you use a modal verb in either the present or simple past tenses. Weggehen, to go away. Du musst jetzt weggehen. You have to go away now. Herunterladen, to download. Als Kind konnten wir keine Musik herunterladen. When I was a kid, we couldn't download music. If the infinitive that you're using requires zu, which I explained several weeks ago, link in the description for that, you put zu between the prefix and the rest of the verb. For example, hochladen, to upload. Dieses Video heute hochzuladen, musste ich den ganzen Tag arbeiten. In order to upload this video today, I had to work the entire day. Nachfragen, to ask or check with. Anstatt bei ihrer Mutter nachzufragen, ist sie einfach ausgegangen. Instead of asking her mother, she simply went out. When you use a separable verb in the perfect tense or any of the tenses that are based upon it, you put the GE part of the past participle between the prefix and the rest of the verb. The past participle still goes where it normally would, the end of the sentence or clause. For example, stattfinden, to take place. Die Versammlung hat im Konferenzraum stattgefunden. The meeting took place in the conference room. Zuhören, to listen. Mein Sohn hat mir nicht zugehört. My son didn't listen to me. Don't forget that when you use the perfect tense in a subordinate clause, that the conjugated verb goes at the end of the sentence, which means haben or sein is behind the past participle. For example, als mein Bruder zurückgekommen ist, bin ich weggegangen. When my brother came back, I left. As I mentioned, these rules apply to the tenses that are based upon the perfect tense too. This would include the Plusquamperfekt. Freigeben, to release. Die Polizei hatte neue Informationen über den Banküberfall freigegeben. The police released new information about the bank robbery. Or the Futur 2, the future perfect. Einkaufen, to shop. Meine Mutter wird schon eingekauft haben. My mother will have already shopped. Or even in the passive voice. Freigeben, to release. Die Informationen wurden von der Polizei freigegeben. The information was released by the police. If you're using a verb with a separable prefix in a Nebensatz or a subordinate clause, you put the prefix and the rest of the verb together even if that verb is conjugated. For example, einkaufen, to shop or buy. Wenn einkauft, bringt seinen Hund nicht. When he shops, he doesn't bring his dog. Vorbeikommen, to come by. Meine Mutter fragt, ob meine Freundin vorbeikommt. My mother is asking if my girlfriend is coming over. By the way, if you want to learn how to use the conjunctions like wenn or ob, which I just used, I recently made a video about that, which you can check out via the link in the description. I know I've explained a ton of rules today, so let's do a quick recap so you can see them all together. Number 1, if the separable prefix is used in a simple sentence in the present or simple past tenses, put the prefix at the end of the sentence or clause. Number 2, if you need to use the infinitive of the verb, put the prefix back on the front of the verb. Number 3, if that infinitive requires zu, put zu between the prefix and the rest of the verb. I can't get my pinky to move without having my ring finger go, so I can't do the 1, 2, 3. It doesn't work because the pinky always comes up with the 4. I don't know. Anyway. Number 4, if you're using a past participle, the ones that are used in the perfect, Plusquamperfekt, and the Futur 2 tenses, put the GE between the prefix and the rest of the verb. Number 5, if you are using a subordinate clause with a separable prefix, put the conjugated form of the verb with the prefix at the end of the clause together. There were a lot of rules mentioned today that require you to have knowledge about other parts of the German language. If you need help with those, I have linked each of them in the description. You can find videos about all of the tenses that I mentioned, the infinitive clauses with zu, and the subordinate clauses. Watch those, catch up on the grammar for those things, and next week I'll start explaining the various prefixes that are separable and how to change the meanings of verbs with them.